Hi there, you're on the Forsaken Joe channel. And buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you still feels like a bad dream I can't wake up from. I didn't plan to share this, but the moment I found out what my wife did, I couldn't hold it in. It all started with a single stupid idea at a bachelorette party. One of those funny late-night moments when everyone's tipsy and trying to outdo each other with these ridiculous dares. They ordered DNA test kits. Yeah, you heard me right, like the ancestry ones, except they treated it like some sort of drinking game. My wife Lena laughed it off as a joke, or at least that's what I thought. The envelope from that test arrived last week. I wasn't even supposed to see it, but she left it lying on the counter while she was in the shower. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe I just wanted to know why she'd been acting like a bundle of nerves ever since coming back from that trip. Or maybe I already knew, deep down, that something was wrong. And, oh, something was very wrong. The letter inside was short. It didn't take me more than a few seconds to read it, but it felt like every word burned a hole through me. I can't even bring myself to write what it said just yet, because I'm still trying to process how my entire life with her might have been a lie. I sat there, clutching that piece of paper, feeling like my chest was going to collapse. By the time Lena walked out of the bathroom, humming like nothing was wrong, I was shaking so hard I couldn't even look at her. I wish I'd never opened that envelope. If you're still here, you must be as curious as I was terrified when I saw that thin white envelope sitting on the counter. I can still feel the paper between my fingers, light as air, but heavy enough to crush my chest when I read what was inside. It wasn't some generic ancestry fun fact like you're 12% Irish or your ancestors love potatoes. No, this was the kind of letter that makes you stare at the wall and forget how to breathe. The results weren't about her. Not really. They were about me, or at least about who I thought I was. You see, one of the things these tests can do is match you with biological relatives, and according to the paper, there was no genetic match between Lena and the person she listed as her husband, me. That sounds insane, right? But buried in the results was a note about how the DNA she submitted didn't align with what she expected, which means she must have tested something she wasn't planning to. Or maybe she was, and I just never knew why. When I asked her about it that night, I'll never forget the look on her face. Her eyes flickered, like she had 1,000 words trapped behind her teeth, but she just laughed. She laughed. "Oh, Ed, don't tell me you're reading those silly test results. They don't mean anything. They're just for fun." She tried to brush it off, but my gut screamed that she was hiding something. Her hands trembled when she picked up the envelope. She shoved it into her purse like it was evidence from a crime scene. I spent the entire night lying next to her, staring at the ceiling while she slept like nothing had happened. Every time she turned in her sleep, I imagined 100 different scenarios. What if the test revealed something about her? What if it revealed something about me? And then the darkest thought of all. What if it revealed something about our son? Our little boy, Oliver, just turned 2. I love that kid more than life itself, but now I couldn't stop thinking about those moments when people joked, "Wow, he doesn't look much like you." I used to laugh it off. Now those words feel like a dagger. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there listening to Lena's steady breathing, wondering how someone I trusted so much could suddenly feel like a stranger lying next to me. Every time I glanced at Oliver's photo on my nightstand, I felt this horrible mix of guilt and fear. What if I was wrong? What if I was just spinning some paranoid fantasy in my head? But what if I wasn't? The envelope had burned its way into my brain, and I knew I needed answers. Answers that Lena clearly wasn't going to give me. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. I made pancakes, kissed her on the forehead, and even laughed when Oliver smeared syrup on my shirt. But inside, I was boiling. I waited until she left for work before I grabbed her purse, pulled out the crumpled envelope, and wrote down every detail I could find. The name of the company, the order number, everything. My hands were shaking, but I felt this cold determination, like I was about to rip open a door that had been closed for years. I called the testing company, and after getting transferred 3 times and lying through my teeth about needing to confirm a mistake in my results, I finally got someone who could tell me more. The woman on the phone hesitated, clearly confused by my call. "Sir, these results, are you sure you want to hear them?" That question alone sent chills down my spine. What kind of answer starts with that warning? She told me the results Lena received weren't just ancestry data. They included parental matches because, apparently, someone at that bachelorette party thought it would be hilarious to test something more personal. My wife, my beautiful, smiling, perfect wife, had swabbed Oliver's cheek for this party game without telling me. I didn't even know she brought the kit home with her. And then the bomb dropped. According to their records, the test flagged a discrepancy. It said, in polite but clinical terms, that I am not Oliver's biological father. My knees literally went weak. I had to sit down on the kitchen floor, clutching my phone, while the woman on the line kept asking if I was okay. I wasn't. I'm still not. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, barely able to function. Every memory of Oliver, his first steps, his first words, all the sleepless nights came flooding back. And all I could think was, if I'm not his father, who is? When Lena came home that evening, I tried to act normal. I asked about her day, smiled, and played with Oliver like nothing was wrong. But I felt this raw anger simmering under my skin. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but I needed to be sure. I needed something undeniable. I don't know if you've ever tried to smile at someone you love while your entire world is collapsing in your head. But let me tell you, it's like trying to hold a broken mirror together with your bare hands. Every time I looked at Lena that evening, I saw someone I thought I knew, someone I trusted with every piece of my soul, and I felt like I didn't recognize her anymore. I wanted to confront her right there at the dinner table, but I didn't. I couldn't. Something told me that if I came at her without proof, she'd find a way to twist it, to make me feel like I was crazy. She's always been good at that, laughing off serious questions, making me think I'm overthinking everything. So, after she fell asleep, I started digging. I went through our photos on my phone, looking for anything I might have missed, any strange detail, any clue. I started scrolling through her old social media posts, the ones from before we got married. I even opened an old laptop of hers that she hadn't touched in years. I felt like a creep, like some desperate guy in a bad movie, but I couldn't stop. Every little piece of information suddenly felt important. And then I found something. It wasn't a confession or anything obvious. It was an old folder on her laptop, buried under layers of random files. Inside were pictures from a trip she took about a year before Oliver was born. A girls' weekend, she called it. But in some of those pictures, there were men I didn't recognize. One guy in particular showed up more than once. A tall, dark-haired guy with this smug grin. He was in the background of multiple photos, sometimes with his arm casually around her shoulders, sometimes just close enough to make my stomach twist. I wanted to believe it was nothing. Maybe he was just someone's friend or a random guy they hung out with. But the more I looked, the more I noticed how her eyes looked in those photos. Bright, alive, like I hadn't seen in a while. I zoomed in on one shot, and I swear I could see the way she was leaning into him. It wasn't the kind of thing you do with just anyone. That night, I barely slept. I lay there next to her, thinking about Oliver's laugh, his little curls, the way he always grabs my hand when he's scared. I love that boy more than anything in this world, but now this poison of doubt was eating me alive. If I'm not his father, then who is? The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I called in sick to work and spent the day tracking down everyone I could from that girls' weekend. I messaged her old friends, pretended to be casual, asked questions about that trip. Most of them gave me vague answers, but one girl, one who'd clearly had too much wine during our conversation, let something slip. She said Lena had been flirting with that guy, Marco, all weekend, and that they'd had some kind of secret joke the whole time. Marco. I'd never heard that name before. I couldn't get that name out of my head. Marco. It sounded like the kind of name that carries trouble with it, like someone who walks into a room and owns it without even trying. I spent the entire night digging online, trying to find this guy. I didn't even know his last name, but I had one blurry photo from that trip. Him standing behind Lena, his arm casually slung over the back of her chair, while she laughed at something out of frame. There was something about that image that made my stomach knot up, like I was looking at a moment I was never supposed to see. I tried everything. Reverse image searches, digging through tagged photos of Lena's friends, even scrolling back years on random social media accounts like some obsessive stalker. And then I found him. His name wasn't Marco on Facebook. It was Marco with a K. But the smug grin was the same, the dark hair the same, the confident, almost arrogant posture. His profile was set to private, but the profile picture told me enough. He looked like the kind of guy who didn't have to try. Perfect teeth, sharp jawline, probably someone who's never had to stand in front of a bathroom mirror and wonder if he's enough, like I do almost every day. I felt this raw, ugly jealousy crawl under my skin. The more I looked at him, the more I hated him, and the more I hated myself for feeling like I could never compete with a guy like that. I kept telling myself maybe I was being crazy, maybe Lena just knew him from the trip and that was it. But then I found a comment he left on one of Rachel's old posts from that same weekend. Best weekend ever. You ladies were wild. And then, just below that, Lena's reply with a winking emoji. A freaking wink. I know it sounds small, but when your world is already shaking, something like that feels like an earthquake. I started connecting dots that might not even exist, but it didn't matter. It all felt too real. I couldn't stop picturing Lena and this Marco together, laughing, maybe sharing things she never shares with me. The worst part, I started looking at Oliver differently. I hate myself for even saying that. But every time he smiled at me, I saw Marco's stupid grin in my head. I found myself analyzing Oliver's face, his nose, his hair, his eyes, searching for something that might prove he's mine. But the more I looked, the more I doubted. And that doubt felt like it was poisoning every memory I had of my son. That night, Lena noticed I was quiet. "What's wrong, Ed?" she asked, leaning against the doorway as I sat on the couch, staring at my phone like it was going to give me all the answers. I almost told her right then, almost threw the name Marco in her face and demanded the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I just muttered something about being tired. She gave me this long look, the kind where she's trying to read me, and for a second, I swear her face went pale like she knew exactly what I was thinking. I didn't sleep again. My mind kept spinning, and by 4 a.m., I had made a decision. I was going to find Marco, no matter what it took. If I had to hear the truth from him instead of Lena, so be it. I needed to know, even if it destroyed me. I stared at Marco's profile picture for hours before I finally worked up the nerve to send him a message. It felt like I was doing something insane, some twisted act of desperation that only a man with too many sleepless nights and too many questions would dare to do. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind screaming at me that this was a terrible idea, but I typed it anyway. "Hey, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Lena." I didn't expect him to reply. Guys like him don't need to deal with people like me. But 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. His response was short, almost too casual. "Who's asking?" I told him who I was, Lena's husband. I half expected him to ignore me after that, or maybe send back some cocky reply. Instead, there was a long pause. When he finally answered, it was just one line. "Guess you found out." Those 4 words hit me harder than I can explain. I felt like my heart had been ripped out and dropped into ice water. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat there, staring at that message like it was some kind of death sentence. I typed back, my hands shaking. "Found out what? What did you do with her? And don't lie to me, Marco. I'll find out one way or another." Another long pause. Then his reply came. "We didn't mean for it to happen. It was just one night. We were all drunk, and she told me things about your marriage, things that made me think she wasn't happy." Reading that felt like being punched in the gut. I couldn't stop picturing Lena, my Lena, sitting with this guy, telling him things she never told me. I felt my throat tighten, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to deny it, to call him a liar, but deep down, I knew he wasn't lying. Lena had been distant in those months before Oliver was born. I chalked it up to stress, to pregnancy hormones, but maybe it was something else entirely. I asked him straight out if Oliver was his. His answer was immediate, and it was the kind of answer that makes the world go silent. "I don't know. I never asked. She said it wasn't possible. But now you're asking me, and I honestly don't know." I don't remember much of what I said after that. I think I told him to stay away from us, to never contact her again. But the truth is, I'm not even sure who I was talking to at that point. Him, Lena, myself. My whole world was spinning, and all I could think about was Oliver, this innocent little boy who trusts me with everything. And now I don't even know if I'm his father. I spent the next 2 days pretending like nothing was wrong. I couldn't confront Lena yet, not without a plan. She's clever. If I go at her head on, she'll twist it around and make me doubt myself. So I did what I always do when I'm falling apart. I played with Oliver. We built towers out of blocks. We chased each other around the house, and every time he laughed, it tore me up inside because I don't know if he's even mine. But I do know one thing. I need the truth, and I can't trust anyone to give it to me, which is why I've decided to get my own DNA test done. quietly, without Lena knowing. If I'm going to face this nightmare, I need facts that can't be argued with. I thought I had time to keep my plan secret. I ordered the DNA test online and had it shipped to my office so Lena wouldn't suspect anything. Every day I counted the hours until I could quietly swab Oliver's cheek and finally know the truth. But life has this cruel way of throwing you into the fire before you're ready. 2 days after I placed the order, Lena confronted me. She walked into the kitchen where I was pretending to read emails on my laptop, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Edwin," she said, her voice tight. "Have you been talking to Marco?" It felt like all the air was sucked out of the room. I froze, my mind scrambling for an answer. She must have found out I messaged him. Maybe he told her everything. I couldn't read her expression. It was part anger, part fear. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to sound clueless, but my voice cracked in a way that betrayed me. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. He texted me saying you reached out. Do you have any idea what kind of mess you're creating?" That word, mess, hit me like a slap. Like I was the one who caused this. Like she was the victim here. Something in me snapped. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. "A mess?" "Lena, I found the test results. I know about the DNA test. I know about Marco. I know everything." She just stared at me, her lips slightly parted, like I'd just ripped a mask off her face. Then she laughed. Not a happy laugh, an ugly, bitter laugh. "You don't know anything," she said. "You're piecing together fragments and turning them into some fantasy because you can't handle reality." "Reality?" I shouted, my voice shaking. "Reality is that I don't even know if my own son is mine." That silenced her. For a moment, she just stood there, her hands trembling. I saw something in her eyes then, something raw and unguarded, and it terrified me more than any confirmation could have. It wasn't guilt, it was pain. Like I'd said something she had been dreading but couldn't deny. She turned away, leaning against the counter, her shoulders trembling. "You don't get it, Ed," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You never paid attention. You never saw me. That weekend, I made a mistake, okay? A horrible mistake. And I've been carrying it every single day since." I felt my whole body go numb. "So it's true? Marco? Oliver? Is he—" She turned back to me, tears running down her face. "I don't know," she screamed, her voice breaking like glass. "I don't know, Ed. I thought he was yours. I prayed he was yours. But I was scared to find out, so I buried it. I thought if I loved you both enough, it would make it true." Those words gutted me. I just stood there, unable to breathe, my world spinning out of control. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to throw something, but all I could do was sit back down because my legs felt like they were made of sand. Oliver's laughter floated from the living room, where he was playing with his toy cars, completely unaware of the storm ripping his family apart. Lena sat across from me, her face pale and wet with tears. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I didn't even know anymore. All I knew was that the DNA test I ordered was coming soon, and once it arrived, everything would change. Either I'd find peace or I'd lose everything I thought my life was. The DNA test arrived 3 days later. I had been living in silence with Lena, both of us tiptoeing around each other like fragile glass. Every time I looked at Oliver, I felt a mix of love and fear so strong it hurt. I waited until Lena took Oliver to the park before I swabbed my cheek, then his. My hands shook as I sealed the envelope. It felt like I was mailing off my entire life, waiting for some faceless lab technician to tell me if I was a real father or just a placeholder in someone else's story. The weight nearly broke me. 5 days later, I got an email notification that my results were ready. I sat there for 10 minutes staring at my laptop, afraid to click it. Finally, I took a deep breath and opened it. My heart almost stopped when I saw the words, probability of paternity, 99.99%. I just sat there, frozen, tears streaming down my face. He's mine. My boy is mine. All those nights, all the memories, all the love, they were real. I wasn't replaced. I wasn't a stand-in. He's my son. When Lena came home, I showed her the results without saying a word. She covered her face and sobbed harder than I've ever seen her cry. We sat on the couch for what felt like forever, both of us broken, but somehow lighter than before. That night, for the first time in weeks, I held her hand and didn't feel like I was gripping a stranger's. We talked until the sun came up, about our mistakes, about how close we came to losing everything. She swore that what happened with Marco was a one-time disaster she regretted every single day. And for once, I believed her. I'm not saying everything is magically perfect now. It isn't. Trust is a fragile thing, and ours has a long way to go. But when I put Oliver to bed that night, he hugged me and mumbled, "Love you, Daddy," in his sleepy voice. And I realized I'd fight through anything for this family. Because we are a family, no matter what happened before. So here I am, sharing this with you all on Forsaken Joe. Have you ever gone through something that nearly broke you, only to find out it made you stronger in the end? Drop your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to Forsaken Joe for more real-life stories like this one.